Hi guys, good evening. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video, I'll be doing my film review for the James Bond film Spectre. Now, before I go on, of course, this review will be very much spoiler filled. So if you have not seen Spectre or any of the other previous Daniel Craig Bond films, as I will be making references back to them, do not continue watching or listening to this video as it will be full of big spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't keep watching or listening. If you have, please do. I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I saw it recently, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I've always been a big Bond fan. I guess my favorite Bond portrayal has been Roger Moore. It's his movies I enjoy the most. I mean, I like them all, but Roger Moore was definitely a favorite for me. And Daniel Craig's doing it. I think he's been doing a great job. You know, I really enjoyed Spectre. I loved how this movie connects. Like, obviously, they're all connected. They're all in the same universe. But this movie connects all of the previous Daniel Craig Bond flicks in this movie. Because, as we find out, of course, it turns out M had a feeling, a suspicion about Spectre even before she died, because Bond received a videotape in the mail, as he explains to Moneypenny, a videotape from M telling him to find a man and kill him. No questions, just kill him. And that's the opening scene. We see Bond kill this guy in Mexico City during a big musical celebration. And it's like a Day of the Dead celebration or something like that. And he kills this guy because he can overhear him talking to another guy planning a horrific terrorist attack. And what I loved about this movie was that fantastic action sequences, witty dialogue between Bond, the women, and his allies, as always. I really loved how they had like an excellent aerial battle sequence in the opening sequence where Bond and the guy are basically exchanging blows while this helicopter spins out of control. And the opening sequence of the song, which was pretty catchy, was also very cool. The graphics were really impressive. And it had a perfect car chase. It had a mountain chase. It had a plane chasing a car down the mountain, and the plane breaks its wings off and practically becomes a gigantic bobsled. It had a good boat chase down the river. It had a good like I said, it had a good car chase. It's like this movie had all the perfect Bond elements to it. A creepy villain, a badass henchman, sexy women, cool gadgets, witty, smart dialogue from Bond. Overall, very, very much enjoyable and highly recommended to any Bond fan out there. And great job to the cast and crew on this movie as well, especially to Dave Bautista. And what I loved about Spectre was that it was like an honorary throwback to the old Bond movies, because there were several scenes that reminded me of some of my favorite Bond films. For perfect example, they're on the train. Bond and the girl are on the train. They're about to have dinner when they're attacked by the mute assassin, Mr. Hinks, who's sent by Spectre to kill Bond and the girl. And the fight scene on the train between Bond and Hinks reminded me so much of the big fight scene between Bond and Jaws during The Spy Who Loved Me, and that was fantastic. That's one of my favorite Bond films, and one of my favorite Bond characters is Jaws. And the fight scene between Hanks and Bond on the train scene reminded me of that from The Spy Who Loved Me. And it was almost like an honorary throwback, like a TBT almost, Throwback Thursday kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, that's so great. Like, they're paying tribute to one of the favorite classic Bond movies. And I really noticed that, and I hope other people noticed it too. I really, really enjoyed that. And of course, it had the classic villain revealing his evil plan to Bond halfway through the movie. And I also loved how they carefully kept it a secret that, yes, it is indeed Ernst Stavro Blofeld, who is the head of Spectre. Because in the trailer and teasers that we saw, it's Christoph Waltz with a full head of hair, and on IMDb for the longest time, until recently, if you haven't seen this movie, do not go on IMDb, by the way, because it's ruined for you now. They had him credited as the character Oberhauser. And it turns out throughout the movie, when we get to know Oberhauser, he's the head of Spectre, but that's not his real name. His real name, his birth mother's name is Blofeld. So his full name is Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And the tease that we got to his real identity is when Bond awakens after being captured and there's a white cat on his lap as he's bound and strapped down to this chair to be tortured by Blofeld. We're like, oh, the white cat. Oh, no way. This guy has got to be, it's Blofeld. And sure enough, it was. And, it was a very fun movie, a good action thriller. I liked how the ring that Bond had recovered from the guy he killed in Mexico with the Spectre symbol on it, it had been worn by all of the previous Bond villains from the past several Daniel Craig films. It turns out they were all now deceased members of Spectre. And before he dies, I love it when Mr. White says to Bond, when he says to him, "You're a kite dancing in a hurricane." That's a great way of saying you have entered a much, much bigger world than you realize. You have no idea how big Spectre truly is, how big its influence goes. I guess the one thing that kind of... Sorry, playing outside. I guess the one thing that I noticed, and it didn't necessarily bother me, but at the same time I'm like, oh, come on, you stole that from another movie, was the plot was about this brand new technology that was going to be launched onto a satellite that would essentially allow the governments of the free world to spy on anybody and anything. And that was the side story that M and MI6 were battling in London while Bond was off on his own. It was a little reminiscent of the plot from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, how the person who introduced this new spy program in the satellite was secretly an agent of Spectre, and Spectre would essentially have control over anything and everything, and would be capable of almost anything. And that's what the big climax was about, was to prevent the launching of this satellite that would allow Spectre to practically rule the world, in a sense. And it was a little reminiscent of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where it's revealed that Hydra has been within S.H.I.E.L.D. all along, and they're planning to launch this new spy technology that would actually allow them to target and kill anybody who's a threat to them. And that's what Spectre's... the plot of Spectre sort of reminded me about. But you know what? I was okay with that because I liked that plot line from Winter Soldier, and I thought it worked pretty damn well in another spy movie, Spectre. And what I also loved was we saw an origin for Blofeld's scar going down his face, because the first time we've seen Blofeld with a scar was in the Bond classic You Only Live Twice, played beautifully by Donald Pleasance in that movie, or as some of you know him, Dr. Loomis from the Halloween franchise. And I liked how they had an origin story for the scar in this movie, and how he loses an eye. And and I said to my buddy after the movie, after Blofeld is captured and they foil Spectre's plan, all that he needs to do now is lose the hair, go bald, and he'll be donning the perfect Blofeld look, like everybody's favorite version of Blofeld, or at least my favorite version of Blofeld from the Bond universe was Donald Pleasance. Overall, very fun movie. Very much enjoyed it. Highly recommended to any action junkie out there. Of course, the Bond fans will treasure and like it a lot as well. I think it's one of Daniel Craig's best Bond performances and best Bond films out of all of them. And I don't know if he's got 1 or 2 more movies left in his contract. I know he's getting kind of sick of them, but he's doing a fantastic job. You really are, Mr. Craig. And keep up the good work. We're really enjoying it. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this movie as much as I did, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos and upcoming content. As we will be getting closer to, of course, The Force Awakens will be opening next Friday, which is extremely exciting, along with new movie trailers debuting very soon for upcoming 2016 summer blockbusters. So stay tuned for more news and trailer movie news on those topics. And please leave your thoughts, opinions, and your feedback down below in the comments section. For those of you who saw Spectre, what did you think of it? Let's try to keep the comment section spoiler free for people who haven't seen it yet. And of course, above all, let's be courteous, respectful, and civil of one another's opinions and beliefs, of course. Let's be respectful and understanding of everybody's opinions and perspectives. And please feel free to sound off below. I'd love to hear from everybody. Have a great rest of the night, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in here on the EdWord for another movie review. And stay tuned and subscribed for more film reviews. And of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.